Hi everyone, welcome back to Management 453. Today we're going to take a look at Chapter 2 that talks about the topic of purpose. And with regard to Chapter 2, I have, probably, let me see here, three major topics to mention, a lot of subtopics, etc. associated with them. And let me start off with the first point, the point about the introduction. A couple of topics here. If you think about it, we talked about that six eyes model in our last class, and we had the graphic up and it showed the six eyes, etc. And of course, all the elements that were on the circle on the outside of the circle, they start with I, right? Invest, investigate, and implement all those other type things. But right in the center of the model was purpose. So purpose is the center of the model. It ties the six eyes together, at least it tries to tie them all together. It's a common element, a common theme, kind of anchors those six eyes that we have. And if used properly, it answers why you're doing what you're doing. It might tell you what you're doing, but it certainly should tell you why you're doing it. Let me give you this example. I'm going to pop up a slide here, and I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to follow it up with another slide. So let me pop up this slide first. So if you take a look at this slide, you see this person. I think it's a guy, but I'm not sure. On a bike, and you can see it's just not a casual bike ride. There's a certain uniform and helmet and everything else like this. This looks like someone who's pretty serious about what he's doing or what she's doing. And this person, if you look at it, and I asked you the question, what's the purpose? What the rider has a purpose for doing this. What do you think the purpose is that the rider has? You could come up with a couple of different answers. Now, if we were in class and having a live class, I'd certainly go around and ask people. My guess is as you're trying to think of what the purpose is, you might think he's in a race. You might think that he's training to be in a race. You might think he's just conditioning, etc. Pretty good set of purposes. There might be some other things there as well, maybe going from one point to another. But again, it looks like the way he's dressed, this isn't just a casual bike ride. But you have an idea anyway, or can come up with an idea, what's his purpose. So now let me flip to the next slide, which shows the full picture here of the rider. So now that you see the full picture, if I asked you, what's the rider's purpose, what's his purpose, what's her purpose, etc., has your answer changed? Or is it still the same? My guess is part of the purpose now is survival. You've got that big bear chasing you behind you, and your purpose has changed. So let me ask you then, do you think that now that his purpose has changed, what do you think has happened to his creativity and innovation? First off, is he thinking the same creative and innovative thoughts as before, if he was thinking any before? And second, with regard to the creativity and innovation, the thoughts going through his mind now, have they changed, and how? My guess is you're going to say yes. He's probably a lot more creative right now because he wants to save his life. He's got this bear behind him. So he's pedaling, to save his life, and probably looking at every possible way to, get away. Where can I go? What can I do? How can I get away from the bear? So my thinking is, and I don't know, but I'm guessing, and I think that you probably came to the same conclusion. My thinking is his purpose has changed. And not only has his purpose changed, but his type of and level of creativity and innovation has changed. So it kind of begs the question for you then, do you think purpose has anything to do with creativity and innovation? I mean, the author says it's the center of the model. Do you think it has an important purpose? Does purpose have an important purpose with regard to creativity and innovation? Let's go to the second point I have under the introduction. And the second point I have under the introduction is a definition. I could ask all of you, and I could give you mine. What's the definition of purpose? And we come up with some pretty good definitions. But let me give you hers, the author's definition. And she says that purpose is the reason why something is created. Purpose is the reason why something is created. I think that, I would have had perhaps other definitions of purpose, but I'm not going to argue with her. If I'm creating something, I probably have a purpose for creating it. So purpose is the reason why I'm creating it. Well, she has a couple of subpoints in that she comes up with based on that. She says that something exists because it has a purpose. We've created it. Why? Because there's a purpose. And along that line, she kind of extends the logic, and she says, well, you exist. So do you have a purpose? What's your purpose in life? Does your life have any purpose to it? And related to that, I think, a question that you might want to ask is, do you think that your levels of creativity and innovation, do you think that your life may be different or would be different if you had no purpose or if you have a purpose? Do you think purpose changes that a little bit? So with regard to this, do you think you should have a purpose-driven life? I don't know. She asked that. Should you have a purpose in life, and would that impact how your life goes and also how creative and innovative you might be? Interesting question. The third point that she raises is she says that with regard to purpose, there are two types. You have personal purpose, something that's serving you, that's going to help me in some particular way, it's going to help me as an individual. And then you have collective purpose, and that's something where the purpose is to help more than me. It's going to help me, a couple of others, etc. It's going to help more than me. Maybe the collective purpose is to help my family, or to help the team I'm in, or to help my class, to help some business that I'm running, some organization I'm in, my community, etc. So we have this concept of collective purpose. So I have personal purpose, and we have collective purpose. Let's go to the fourth point that she has under the introduction. She says, well, what's the result? What's the result of having a purpose? And I think if you go back to the fellow on the rider that was on the bike, what's the result? She has 2 points here. She says, first, having a purpose can be a motivator. I agree. First off, do you think the motivation of the bike rider changed between no bear and bear behind you? So as the purpose changed, do you think perhaps the motivation changed? Another thing that she mentions, and it's kind of interesting here, is she says that if you have no purpose, whether it's today or just no purpose in your whole life, but if you have no purpose, she says it's not very fulfilling. You're probably lost and probably bored and probably wasting time. You're probably lost, you're probably bored, and probably wasting time. Think about that. One of the things I tend to see from this side of the podium when I'm teaching and I'm looking at you in the audience is one of the things that I think you hate is you hate to be bored. If I'm lecturing you and you're just bored out of your mind, I don't think you're enjoying the process. And I don't think that in general people like to be bored. So if you have a life without purpose, you might have a boring life. Do you think perhaps you want to have a purpose in life? It might be more fulfilling. It might give you some semblance of direction of where you're going, so you're not lost. It might not be a waste of time, and you might not be bored. I have a purpose. I'm trying to accomplish something. Along that line, let me give you another example. There was a rock singer back in the late, I guess in the 70s, by the name of David Cassidy. He was part of a TV show, an ensemble on a TV show called The Partridge Family. It was on ABC, I think, on Friday nights. And this Partridge Family was a family of musicians. They had a kind of a rock band or something together, and he was, the main singer of it. He was a heartthrob. The girls back then absolutely loved him. People, looked at him and thought, wow, wish I had his life, etc. And unfortunately, he just recently died. Now, he's probably, if he died just a couple of years ago, he's just not a young fellow anymore, right? I mean, again, he was a rocker, probably around 20 years old, 25 years old back in the early 70s. So, add 50 years to that. So he had a good life, I hope, a long life. It wasn't short. But there's an interesting thing that developed that came out in the news. Apparently, on his deathbed, well, when he was passing away, he had his family with him, or at least some of his family. And one of his family members, maybe the only one, that was bedside at the time was one of his daughters. And she said something interesting with regard to David Cassidy's last words. Before I tell you what his last words were, let me give you a look at this slide here to get an idea of who he was and a little bit more about him. And then let me come back and let me tell you what his last words were and see if you can see how they tie in, how he ties in, how this slide ties in with this concept of purpose. So let's look at this concept of purpose and David Cassidy and this. What did he say when he was passing away? According to his daughter, his last words were too much wasted time. Too much wasted time. Now, when someone's dying, and these are the last words that you're going to mumble or mutter or whatever, they're probably pretty important to you. I mean, these are the last things that you're saying before you leave everybody. And he thought it was important to say too much wasted time. Now, what does that have to do with anything? Well, let's go back to what the author said about purpose. If you have a lack of purpose, aren't you wasting time? What are you doing? Are you doing anything? And if so, why? If you don't have a purpose, why are you doing it? Aren't you wasting your time? So going back to this slide about David Cassidy, maybe what he was telling us, telling his daughter and telling us in general as he was getting ready to depart, is maybe he was saying we should have a purpose in life. Maybe he was saying we waste too much time in life. Life is too short. Maybe we should have a purpose. That's kind of what the author's saying. Well, let's go to the next of the points. I guess this is the fifth point under this first major topic of this introduction. And she says that purpose and goals are not the same. Purpose and goals are not the same. Purpose is certainly a buzzword in our class. I guess you could say the word goal is also a buzzword. And she says purpose and goals are not the same. What would you say? If you have a purpose, is your purpose your goal, or is there something else? Let me tell you what she says, and then see if you agree with it. She says goals are things that we want to achieve and are working towards. They focus our energy. Goals are things that we want to achieve and are working towards. Whereas purpose, on the other hand, according to her, purpose is an intent or an intention. It keeps us aligned with our core values. It's related to what we value, what's important to us. And she also says that purpose helps us to like doing your work. Purpose helps us to like doing your work. So let's talk a moment or two about the difference between goals and purpose, but also let's see if we can come back to this concept about helping you to like what you do, what you're working for. Another way of looking at this is the goal that we have. Let's say we're playing a football game. The goal that we have is to score a touchdown, get points, score a touchdown. But our purpose is to win a game. We want to outplay our opponents. We want to have competitive advantage. We want to do well. Our purpose is to win a game. The goal, touchdown, purpose to win a game. So they're similar, but they're not quite the same. And it's probably not a bad idea for you to think of how they are the same and also particularly how are they different. And let's go back to that last point about purpose. She says purpose helps you to like doing your work. Now think about this. Throughout your life, there are times you have to work. Whether it's something small, I got to work in this morning, I got to do my laundry or something like that. Or maybe it's something large, it's the career that I have. Or maybe it's something larger, it's to help my children and things like that, or to make the community better. she's basically saying if you have a purpose, it can help you to be happy, to like doing your work. Do you think it's important to like doing your work? You know, we work through so much throughout life. Do you think it's a good idea to be happy, you know, to whistle on our way to work, kind of like what we saw in, you know, the Seven Dwarfs with, you know, that Disney character that we're talking about? So this concept of liking what you work, I think that has something to do also with motivation. If you're motivated, you're probably liking what you're doing. Also, if you have a purpose and you start to work towards it, maybe because you feel I have some goal, I know where I'm going, it's not useless, I'm not wasting time, maybe you're going to like that. And maybe as you start to make certain achievements, moving towards that goal to follow your purpose, etc., maybe what you're finding is a little happiness. Oh my goodness, look, I got it done. I mean, think about things that you looked at and you had a hard task ahead of you, and then you got it done. Even got part of it done. You know, doesn't it at times make you feel a little bit happier? In fact, let me ask you with regard to people in the workplace or even students in the classroom, do you get done more if you're happy? Do you get done more, better, if you like what you're doing? I'm thinking so. And she says purpose actually has something to do with that. The question for you is, do you think it does? Is there a relationship between having purpose and potentially liking what you're doing, being happy at work? The next major point that I'll mention, there's one or two others you want to take a look at in the book, but the next major point I want to mention to you is she says, if all this is true, and you might not buy it, but you know, if all this is true, then you have a challenge. You have a challenge in life, you have a challenge in your businesses, you have a challenge with regard to employees you're leading, and that challenge is that you should think through and find your purpose. What do you want to do? What would you like to do? What do I have to do? The challenge is to find your purpose. Again, if you don't have a purpose, I don't know where I'm going, I'm not happy, I'm bored, and other things like that. So again, the challenge is to find your purpose. Now, if I went around the classroom, if we were together right now, and I went around the classroom and I asked you, what's your purpose in life? Called on you and called on you and called on you, etc., like that. How would you answer that? You might want to think about that. I know, particularly as a college student, you might have asked yourself, why am I here? You know, what's my purpose? Why am I in school? What am I doing? Do I have any purpose in life? Certainly, as you get older, you know, people in their middle age oftentimes say, you know, why am I here? What's my purpose in life? And even people towards the end of their journey, you know, perhaps David Cassidy, etc., ask, why? What was it all about? Why was I here? Did I make a mark? Did I make a difference, etc.? Did I have a purpose? Now, the last thing that I'll mention here, I believe it's the last. Let me check the page again. The last thing I'll mention under this introduction, the last point, is she says that your purpose should add value to you. Your purpose should add value to you. Your purpose should have a value. And there's all sorts of different values, and she mentions them here. My guess is your list could be even longer than hers, but let me tell you what she says. One type of value is financial. Oh, I have a purpose. I want to make more money. I was just talking to my older son, actually texting with my older son, and you know, one of the purposes he has is, of course, of buying his first house as a condo, etc. And one of the purposes he has is he's trying to pull together the money to be able to do this and be able to afford it, etc. So he certainly has a financial purpose. In your business endeavors that you have, with regard to the employees that you're leading, you might have various financial goals. You know, we have to increase, you know, profit and sales and other things like that. Another type of value she mentions is strategic or competitive value. And whatever the purpose I have is to, you know, put me in a better position than others, to give my business, you might say, a competitive advantage, to give me a competitive advantage. Think about it as a student. You're probably going to, you know, a number of career fairs, unless you already have your job for after graduation. You're going to a number of career fairs, you're applying for a lot of jobs, etc. There's only a certain number of openings, and there's far more people applying for the openings than there are openings. And you want to be able to position yourself to get the job. You want to position yourself for success. You want to give yourself a competitive advantage against the others. So maybe that's your purpose, to have a strategic position, to get a competitive advantage that you have. Another of the values that she mentions, you have social value. Social value. And I think you can come up with all sorts of different social values, but if you're just talking about it in your own life, you probably want people to like you and look up at you, etc. And your friends and family, you probably want them to love you, etc. With regard to your employees, you probably want them to respect you and want to work with you and want to work for you, etc. So there's a social value that you can get. There's also environmental value that you can get out of this. And also, she mentioned, and I guess this ties in with some of the others that we mentioned, there's personal value. It's important to me. There might be things in your life that other people can't understand. Why are you doing this? This is crazy, but it's important to you. I know an uncle of mine who recently passed away. One of the things that he was trying to do in his latter years was to pull together all the various family photos and snapshots, some of which were on paper, some of which were electronic, had videos and things like that. You want to pull them all together, either someplace on the web or on his computer or whatever. So in the future, anybody, has grandchildren that were, being born and their kids later on or where, might have a better idea of who the family was, who he was, who some others were. So this was personal to him. A lot of people say, "Are you crazy? Nobody's going to look at that." I mean, think about it. I'm going to guess at least some of you probably have a whole lot of family photos back in albums at home and stuff like that. You've never looked at them. You've never really given any care about them. Who is this uncle and who's in that picture? So a lot of people don't care about that. He was spending a lot of time, trying to pull all this stuff together. And people were wondering, why? What's the importance of it? Well, it's personal to him. It had personal value to him. So that's something else you want to take a look at. You want to have a purpose that adds value to yourself, and if you have a business or something like that, certainly to your business. That's the first major topic, and that was the topic introduction. Let's go to the second major topic, and this is called the purpose statement. The purpose statement. There's another buzz phrase for you. And under this purpose statement section, I have 3 points to raise, 3 major topics to raise. The first, a definition. What is a purpose statement? This is a short, succinct statement, maybe even a sentence, that clearly states what you want to do and why. What's your purpose? Put it in a statement. An easy way for me to kind of give you an example of it is you probably have heard of something called an elevator pitch speech. An elevator pitch speech. Let's say, for example, you start a company, you're running a company. One of the things that they tell you that you should have is an elevator pitch speech. And what's that? Well, that means that when you get on an elevator one day and you're in a building downtown someplace and you're going up a number of floors or whatever, and there's a couple people on the elevator with you, if any of them has an interest and says, "What do you do? What's your company about? What do you do?" You should have a short speech ready for them. A speech long enough that you can tell them what you're doing, but short enough that can be said before you get to the 3rd floor, or the 50th floor, or wherever you're going. And this is called an elevator pitch speech. Well, your purpose statement is kind of like that. What's your purpose? You should be able to put together a purpose statement, either for yourself or for your company. If you have a project you're doing or something, what's your purpose? Put together a purpose statement. Not a bad idea. Not necessarily a bad idea to write it down someplace. You can change it, rip it up, or whatever. But sometimes when you write something down, sometimes it gives it more meaning, more value, perhaps. The second point she has under this phrase, the purpose statement, she says, what's the function? Why? Why do I need one? And she has basically 3 answers to that. She says that a purpose statement helps you to make decisions. I know what my purpose is, and if I have the statement, particularly if I have it printed out on my wall or something like that, it helps me make decisions. Let me give you a quick example of that. I know that when I came out of law school and I started my law practice, one of the things that I oftentimes was tempted to do, I'd have people in front of my desk who they were in need, they needed help, legal help. Sometimes they're businesses, sometimes individuals. Uh, they needed help. And I like helping people. And I'm not a really good uh, asker for money, gimme, gimme, gimme. I'm not money hungry. But unfortunately, one of the things that oftentimes would occur is I had people come into the office for this, that, and the other, and to be nice to them or whatever, either I wouldn't charge them or I'd charge them a small amount, etc., as opposed to what others were charging. And that wasn't good, right? I mean, this is a business, and also I need this money, for my family or whatever. So one of the things I did is I put a picture of my family on my desk. So as I'm looking at the client across my desk, and, halfway tempted to say, oh, no, it's easy, I'll do it for free, or no, it won't cost you hardly anything. As I'm about to say that, I'd look down and I'd see the picture of my wife and kids, and immediately think, oh my God, I got to buy food for them, I got to pay for the house, they got college coming up and other things like that. And it gave me a better idea of my purpose. It didn't necessarily mean I turned around and I charged somebody $1 million for a $20 will or something like that. But it helped me. It helped me to go back to my purpose. My purpose wasn't there just to help somebody out. My purpose included helping my family out. So having a purpose statement can help you make decisions. Another point here, another function, the second function, helps to keep you on track. Have you ever gone to a meeting, particularly an organized meeting, not just a couple buddies getting together for a couple of beers or whatever, but you go to an organized meeting, you're in some club, some student club or whatever, and you go to the meeting, and everybody gets off on tangents left, right, and the other, and the meeting's going on, you're looking at the watch or whatever, oh my God, I can't believe this. Finally, the thing's over, and you leave, and not a whole lot got accomplished other than you wasting time. Well, probably wasted time because everybody was getting off tangent. They weren't looking at what their purpose was. They didn't keep that in mind. So having a purpose statement might help to keep you on track, kind of like having an agenda for a meeting. I know some people who have run some really good meetings, and while you do let people talk a little here, there, and the other, the person always had the agenda right in front of, in this case it was a he, right in front of them. So after a while, as people were going off on tangents, to bring everybody back, talked about the agenda, went back to the purpose statement. Why are we here? It's the agenda. Let's see what we have to accomplish. And the last function that was mentioned of the three, and she says a purpose statement helps you to examine each of your 6 eyes in light of it. So as we start to get into this model, and you start to move from one eye to the next eye, etc., having a purpose will help you to examine it. One of the first eyes is to identify. Well, if I have a purpose, I have an idea what I'm supposed to be identifying. I have an idea what to look for. If I don't have my purpose, what am I looking for? I'm looking all over for what? Will I ever know if I found it? So having a purpose will help you as you go through each of the 6 eyes. And one of the things you should always ask yourself in real life, not necessarily just in the course, is if you do follow the 6 eyes model, if you do start to go through each of these steps, for each step, don't hesitate to stop on occasion and not just look at the step itself, but look and see how does it relate to the purpose. If I've gone off on a tangent, like some of these crazy meetings that I mentioned to you that people go on, and that purpose statement might be able to get you back on track, etc., it should help you get through the 6 eyes model a little bit more efficiently and perhaps a little quicker. Well, the last point under the second major topic, again, that's the purpose statement, are 6 key questions that the author suggests that you ask. 6, oh good, here we've got a nice long list. Lots of books do that. They give you lists of 10 and 12 or whatever. This is 6. It's not bad. Let me give you the 6 questions and then let's talk a little bit about them. One of the things I'll mention is for each of these 6 questions, you could phrase it either in the singular or in the plural. I should do this, why? Or we should do this, why? So I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to talk about it in the singular. I'll be using the word I. But you could go through each of these, for a collective purpose, and you could use the word we. Why are we doing this, etc. But as I say, as I go through these 6 right now, it's just for the singular I. So let's take a look at the first question. The first question is, I need to do this because. I need to do this because, and then fill in the line. Why am I doing this? I need to do it. Why? So what's the first question? I need to do this because. The second question, I want to do this because. I want to do this because I feel like, why am I doing it? It's not just a need, it's a want. Do I want to do it? Etc. I want to do this because. Let's go to the third question. My customers or my stakeholders will benefit because. My customers or stakeholders will benefit because. If I'm in a business, I'm doing something, it's probably not a bad idea for me to do it because it's going to benefit my customers or stakeholders, because in the long run, hopefully I'm going to be getting some money from them, and that's going to help me to live and keep the business alive, etc. So again, the third question, okay, my customers, my stakeholders are going to benefit how? They're going to benefit because. Let's go to the fourth question. The fourth question is, I will benefit because. I will benefit. Now, I'm not looking at them anymore, I'm looking at me. How's this going to benefit me? Not just I want to do it, I need to do it, etc. Is it going to benefit me to do this? I will benefit by doing this. How? I will benefit. How is this going to do it? I will benefit because of what? So again, number 4, I will benefit because. The fifth question. The fifth question, whatever this is in line with my personal purpose because. This is in line with my personal purpose because. It's basically asking you, okay, I'm doing this, and how does it line up? Is there that connection between what I'm doing and this purpose? What's the alignment? What's the connection? What's the relationship? And then the final question, which is one that I, honestly, if I was putting this together, I probably would have put as first. She puts as last, and maybe there's a good reason to do that. The final question is, my purpose is, and then fill in the blank. What's your purpose? Well, my purpose is to, sing a song, to build a building, or whatever it might be. What's my purpose? If you take a look at these 6 questions, you can say, well, so what? I've got these 6. Well, what does it matter? They're all kind of general questions, etc. Why should I ask these? And again, I think the bottom line is by asking these questions, it's going to help you to come up with that purpose statement. She thinks having a purpose statement is a pretty good idea. Before you come up with a purpose statement, ask yourself some of these questions. They might help you to better identify your purpose and come up with that purpose statement. Well, those are the first 2 of the major topics today. There's a third one, and it's very brief, and I'm going to get to it now. When you take a look at your various chapters, there's all sorts of things I don't cover. You certainly want to look at those. Whether I cover all of this chapter, all of that chapter, certainly want to cover it all. Take notes, look for buzzwords and cases and examples, etc. There's one part of most chapters that a lot of us don't read. I mean, when I first went through it, I skipped over it, right? I only have, how much time? I got to get this done. I got 5 other things to do. But there's one part in particular I might suggest that you take a look at, and that's at the end of each chapter. They have what's called a resource guide. A resource guide. And some of the things that she includes are helpful. Some of them I'll agree is probably a waste of time, but it doesn't take you long to look at it. In the resource guide for chapter 2 on purpose, there's one particular thing I'd like you to take a look at. There's not a whole lot for it, but I like the concept of it. And it goes to this quote, what on earth am I here for? What on earth am I here for? And that goes to that question I said I could ask each of you early on. What's your purpose in life? What on earth or why on earth am I here for? And this leads to a writing that someone put together that I think the title, I mean, the writing is okay. I understand it's religious in nature, and I'm not pushing religion on anybody. But I like the title in particular. The title of the writing is called The Purpose-Driven Life. The Purpose-Driven Life. She basically is saying, by putting this in, and the person who actually wrote that writing, The Purpose-Driven Life, she's saying, our author's saying, the other person who wrote this, give your organization, give yourself a purpose-driven life too. If you have a purpose, if you're driven by a purpose, the odds are you're going to be much more efficient, much more motivated to achieve it. You're going to have a better idea what's going on. You're not going to be bored, and you're not going to look back and say, why was I here? It was all wasted time, too much wasted time, just like what David Cassidy said. Well, I hope you liked the lecture for today. You have a lab coming up, and the lab is related to purpose. In fact, one of the things I would suggest you do when you look at the lab is take a look at the lab and see if you can see how is it related to this topic of purpose. Does this lab have anything to do with purpose? And if so, what and why? Why is Fogarty giving me, a hands-on lab to do early in the semester that is this? Is it related to purpose, and why? Why am I doing it? So you might want to ask that. Well, I hope you enjoyed our lecture today. I hope you enjoyed the class so far. We've now finished the first 2 chapters, To Begin and Now Purpose. And beginning next week in our next lecture class, we're going to be taking a look at the first of the 6 I's. And I'll be in chapter 3. And we're going to start off with these I's, and for the next 6 weeks or so, maybe a little bit longer, we're going to be lecturing on each of those I's, etc. By the time that we're done with that, another point or 2 thereafter, hopefully you have a pretty good idea of this model that your author suggests you use, the 6 I's model. Hopefully it might, in some way, shape, or form, in whole or in part, help you to become more creative and innovative, and help you to manage and lead your business and your employees to be more innovative and creative. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you have a great day coming up. I'll talk to you folks later. Bye-bye.